Hi, everyone. Yeah, uh, the last video I made was about the pan, the pan African thing, where the blacks in South Africa want South Africa to be only with uh, black people. Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. So basically, South Africa um, and the places that are basically functioning in South Africa is going to look like the rest of Africa. Great stuff. And then whenever there's a crisis, which is going to be happening continually, they'll be running overseas with a begging bowl. Yeah, begging for money. But they don't want the white people, yeah, that could make, sorry, that could make lives better. As far as I'm concerned, let them get on with it. Uh, yeah. So let's start. And see, because there's this big sort of uprising where where the black Africans in South Africa are not happy about all these other people coming into South Africa from Uganda, Nigeria. But little do they know that is where they are from, Nigeria, and and some other places as well. But it's so but it's so convenient when you don't know history. You can just say as first year, and that's mine and that's mine. Right, let's start.
Hey guys, I'm on a bit of a business trip, so the next few
Hello,
videos
Willem.
we'll be releasing here will look like this. But in any case, today I want to talk about one of the most profound shifts in South Africa's leadership crisis. The shift I'm talking about here might be the reason why the ANC and their offshoot parties such as the EFF and the MKP might be driving away so much black support that they will very soon not be a factor in this country anymore. And that is the fact that they are neglecting the most core issue of black South African voters, which is basically all of their constituents, and this is the crisis of immigration in South Africa. The average black South African voter does not want more immigration. But you see, the ANC and the EFF and their offshoots ideology is that of black Marxism or Pan African Marxism, which is basically like classical Marxism, where the idea is that the bourgeoisie was oppressing the proletariat or the working class, and therefore the bourgeoisie must pay back what they quote unquote stole from the working class, to put it in very simple terms. On the other hand, the Pan-Africanist or black Marxism of the ANC, the EFF, and the MK party just changes the proletariat to black and the bourgeoisie with white. So everything is white people stole everything from the black man, and therefore white people should pay it back.
And that just shows the level of total total incompetence, ignorance. They know nothing. Everything's black or white. There is no history, circumstances, nothing. Okay. And really, it is so concerning that, Like so many people's lives will be lost.
But it's Pan-Africanist, so it means that it includes all black people. It doesn't make any distinction between black South Africans or blacks from any other groups or races.
Oh,
And
God.
therefore, the ANC's view will always be pro-illegal immigrants in South Africa
Mm,
because it is a black first party,
mm,
not a South African first party, and this is losing them so much support. The leaders of the most prominent black political parties in South Africa are now accusing their own black voters who oppose this open borders of South Africa by the ANC of wanting to return to a form of what they call, the ANC calls, apartheid. And the reality is that the ANC and the EFF are openly turning their backs on their own voter base when it comes to the issue of border control, which could reshape South Africa's
mm.
political future in a few ways many people are not prepared for. So stay tuned, because in today's video I'm going to highlight a political tension that will eventually reach a political boiling point and that will lead to a
And
total
it's going to happen
political
soon.
revolution someday, sooner or later, in South Africa. Most likely
Mm.
sooner rather than later. Over the past few weeks, several protests were held across the country in opposition to the long-standing government failure to secure the country's northern border. Millions of immigrants have flooded across the border illegally over the past 3 decades, and effectuating a complete demographic revolution in this country by itself, especially in the major cosmopolitan centers such as Johannesburg specifically,
Mm.
but also now Cape Town and Durban. And what happened after that? First, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa used his Freedom Day address to condemn the growing frustration with illegal immigration in this country.
And these people from these countries, be it Africa, well, most of them are from, I'm saying Africa, and from Muslim, like Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and all those places, they don't bring anything to the country, only death. They do not add.
Saying that the current laws and measures implemented by government is sufficient, claiming that those who are starting to act against these waves of illegal immigrants to South Africa, flooding their communities as people, and I quote, who trample into the dust the African fellowship that made our freedom possible. Then, a few days later, in his May Day speech, Julius Malema also echoed the sentiment by President Ramaphosa by claiming that the growing opposition to illegal immigration in South Africa is reminiscent of apartheid. Just take a look at this.
After beating up fellow Africans, and you don't realize that the same people who made you fight each other during apartheid are the same ones who are doing the same. The provinces that are fighting black on black violence are the same that did during apartheid. The tribe that is fighting black on black violence is the one that did during apartheid. At the center of black on black hatred is a state-sponsored and capital-sponsored hatred to distract you from giving your...
And it's so rich from this one that actually killed people in the old South Africa because they happen to be black. This guy, there is nothing noble, there is nothing virtuous, there is nothing good in him. Nothing.
Economic opportunities. To make you blame wrong people for your misfortunes. There's no Zimbabwe that took a land from you. There's no Zimbabwe that took a tender from you. There's no Zimbabwe that took a job from you. There are no jobs. The jobs Zimbabweans are doing, don't want to do them. You are so educated enough.
And yet, these so-called illegals are going to come here and do what? Suddenly jobs are going to come and all kinds of everything. Just look at where they are from. And it's so rich for him to actually be talking like this when his kids go to a white private school.
You can do those slave jobs. That's why, not that you are lazy. You are not lazy, you know your worth. And you're refusing to do those jobs. That's what I'm hated.
How the hell are the people supposed to do jobs when there happen to be no jobs? What a bloody clown.
For saying they've got and stole. The people who stole your land are white conquerors, are white colonialists. It is written in books. No Zimbabwean conquered you, no Nigerian conquered you. Why are you turning your back on what is the true reflection of who we are to want to entertain?
This guy is such a bloody idiot. He really hasn't thought much about this. Really. Books can be changed, you twit. You go back to the not books, documents signed by whoever to go back in history. He is so full of hate.
Sponsored contemporary politics that seeks to distract you from why you are unemployed. They are moving you away. Apartheid did the same. It made the ANC to fight with the IFP so that they are distracted from fighting for the liberation of South Africa.
It is noteworthy that perhaps the two most well-known politicians in this country in the same week condemned the growing opposition by the majority of black South Africans to mass immigration into South Africa as reminiscent of apartheid, all while maintaining that the current policy and status quo of not securing our northern border is sufficient. All this while illegal foreigners from all over Africa are streaming in and heavily disrupting the social fabric of our major metros to the point where absolute chaos ensues. In Durban, for example, South Africa's second largest city and business port, entire neighborhoods have effectively fallen under the control of criminal networks linked to foreign nationals, with police raids regularly uncovering illegal weapons, human trafficking operations, counterfeit goods, drugs, stretching from the city center to the townships. The once proud warmest place to be has in many areas become a front line in the struggle between law enforcement and syndicates from overseas, with roots stretching across the entire continent. Durban's port and its vast informal economy have made it a magnet for transnational crime, and increasingly a symbol of how state control has collapsed even in South Africa's most strategic coastal city. Throughout the city of Johannesburg, there are dozens of abandoned buildings where illegal foreigners have hijacked these rundown and downright dangerous places.
And this is what they come with. This. Yeah.
Structures. They occupy them illegally, maintain illegal and dangerous electricity connections, and then start fires inside these buildings. Yet, instead of promising policy reforms on immigration or plans to combat the demographic crisis in this country, South Africa's most prominent political leaders have now opted to turn their backs on their own constituency in favor of a Pan-Africanist notion that they had always held, but that was never such a big problem for South Africans as a whole, This Pan African notion of a borderless continent in which one set of peoples and tribes are considered
And like this whole thing is anti-happening worldwide. This is Marxism, socialism, communism just cause death and absolute mayhem. Do away with the borders. We need it.
simply replaceable by another as long as they are all black. But the irony is that until fairly recently, this wasn't even the case. In the past, the ANC politicians at least pretended to care about South Africa's citizens. In fact, when he was in the ANC Youth League, Julius Malema himself even called upon black foreigners from the north of the border to self deport. Take a look at this and how much it differs from the way that he talks now.
At us, they must go and fight for their battle in Zimbabwe and win. If they've got ground and they are formed on the basis of solid ground in Zim, why are they speaking in Santen and not Mashonaland or Matabeleland? There's nothing Santen in Zimbabwe. There's everything about the Zimbabweans. Let them go back and go and fight them.
So why the change?
And this is the thing. And so many Africans respect him. He's my man. He's just fantastic. This guy's brilliant. And they praise him. Yeah. It really helps to have a leader with a very, very low IQ. And it really helps having followers that are really low IQ as well.
Why would the leadership of both the ANC as well as the EFF now seemingly join forces with neoliberal forces across the globe to promote open borders in this country? And why would they even go as far as to accuse their own black voter base here in South Africa of wanting to return to something akin to apartheid? The explanation for this lies in the way they have opted to synthesize the African philosophy of Ubuntu with the Marxist philosophy they have imported to Africa by their Marxist leaders during the so-called struggle that were basically the ideological leaders of the ANC and their movements such as Joe Slovo, of course, which was also the ideology of their main benefactors abroad. In accordance with Ubuntu, our very humanity is intrinsically bound up with our embrace of the humanity of others. This, of course, forms the heart of the idea that for the nation to live, the tribe must die. One of the reasons the white man is continually vilified by the likes of Ramaphosa and Malema.
That is so cockeyed. What? Just take it back.
Humanity of others. This, of course, forms the heart of the idea that for the nation to live, the tribe must die.
So, for the nation to live, the tribe must die. Yeah. So there's no prosperity, no life. It's like the queen bee and the worker bees, and the worker bee must, and the worker bees must just work and work so that the queen can live. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That is pure communism. That. It's some goal out there, utopia, and it doesn't matter which people die, how many die, we will reach it. And that's why now they actually say that in the past, under Lenin, Marx, and Lenin, it wasn't done right. But we know how to actually do it right. Mm.
One of the reasons the white man is continually vilified by the likes of Ramaphosa and Malema, or Mandela even, is because of the fact that the maintenance of Western cultural identity and the values are viewed as fundamentally incompatible with being African in the context of Ubuntu. This is why we have now the absurd situation where immigrants from Central and West Africa who have absolutely no ancestral, historical, or even cultural connection to this country are to be welcomed, while the descendants of people who have been in this country or this part of the world in case for nearly 4 centuries are vilified as the colonialists who do not belong here. But those who come from countries almost as far as Europe from here all belong in this country according to them, as long as they are black. The great irony in Malema's statement over the past weekend that no other black Africans have dispossessed or oppressed black South Africans, and that this is supposedly supported by the historical record, is that during the Defekani of the 19th century, the Zulu warlord Shaka Ndingan murdered millions of black people in this country. So much so that they virtually wiped out entire nations and entire tribes that do not even exist anymore today because of this genocide.
Yeah.
And what is more, the only reason why that genocide was stopped was because the Boers and the British, the ancestors of the very people being vilified as colonists today, stopped the genocide by emerging victorious in key battles against the Zulus, and thereby saving all the other black tribes of South Africa from complete annihilation. And now we have reached a point where blacks
And hardly any of them know this. And this is what really gets me. Like their whole IQ is just, you are to actually blame for all my struggles, for all my suffering, because you happen to be white. Yeah, Shaka actually killed over 2 million people. Black people, black people.
South Africans opposing the mass influx across our northern border are being accused of effectively advocating for a form of apartheid. Yet, there is one exception to the rule, and that is Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma's Umkhonto weSizwe party, while still remaining relatively silent on the issue, seems at least far less likely to distance themselves from the prevalent sentiments of their own voters. Meaning, they are the party that might pick up all of these disgruntled black voters that simply cannot go on with supporting the ANC. And it is precisely because of this divergence that we here at the Willem Petse Group and our analysts believe that the MK party might grow even larger.
And also on top of that, they don't realize there's no difference between ANC, Juju's party, MK. It's all the same. It might come in these shiny paper for, like, let's say one box is red and one box is green and one box is silver. But they're all the same gun inside those boxes. Okay. So that was what is happening in South Africa. Yeah, and the show will go on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.